Mr. Walton, did you make contact with aliens? Were you taken to another planet, to a mothership? How did they communicate with... Can you tell me what they look like? Can you tell me how many of them there were? Were you given food? Injections? It's important the entire world learns of your experience.
That's enough!
The teachers are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body, because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world.
For the seeker.
Houston, 20 seconds to LOS T-Dress.
Broadcasting from the Forest Tower studio in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. I'm Joe Roop, and this is Lighting the Void. Check out our website at lightingthevoid.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all social media, and our new YouTube channel under Lighting the Void. Sign up for our newsletter. We got some more prizes coming up. Tina just got her books. She said thank you, because she won the prize as well. Or a prize giveaway. We do that. And it's November the 1st, and the night is warm, actually, and damp here in the natural state, and the moon is waxing in Pisces still, but on into Aries, into the morning. Sync both of your hemispheres together of that brain of yours. Shoot your magical beam of light through your third eye with us as we peer into the void between spirituality and science on this wonderful post-Halloween night, November the 1st. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, an alien message in the pyramids of Egypt, and given to a man and writer named Gary Parker. This is going to be very interesting. And the pictures are quite compelling as well. Strap in. Now, this is a live show broadcasted on thefringe.fm, the one and only thefringe.fm, and can be heard on lightingthevoid.com, TalkStream Live, TuneIn, Spreaker, iTunes Radio, Radio Guide FM, Radio Garden, and more by proxy via the Fringe FM. The TalkStream Live call-in to listen number is 701-719-3971. If you don't have internet or data, there you go. You can also check out all the show archives on, our podcast players, Apple, Stitcher, Google, whatever. We're there as well. And you can listen on Alexa devices. I want to keep reminding everybody about that because I think that's pretty cool. That's just because Spreaker's partnered with Alexa. So if you got one of those devices, you can listen on that. That's pretty rad, I think. And things are just getting better and better for the ability to listen to the show. Also, be on the lookout for the app on the Google Play Store as well as iTunes. The Fringe FM will be coming out with an app. I think it may take a week or so before the developers finally get it through, but they are working on it right now. And that's what's going on. So now you can also listen on Facebook. There's Listen Live tab links on Facebook as well. And if you want to call in the show, the second part of the show, to ask any questions, the call-in number is 501-777-5631. And you can contact me at contact@lightingthevoid. You can also leave voicemails or leave me a hate email or whatever you like. I'm waiting for that, for an awesome email, by the way. Thank you for all of your donations. It's been really surprising to get those, actually, and they always come in right when we need them at the most. And I still want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Perez out there driving in their truck across the country, listening to Lighting the Void and helping us out. We love you guys. And in the shack today with me is Jeff Gilson from the Gilson Report. What's going on, Jeff?
Hey, what up?
Man, you don't have a very booming voice these days, do you?
I don't.
Him and my dad was just outside talking politics, and
I was trying not
I had to yell him and say, look, it's 3 minutes till showtime, you know. But it's cool. One day we'll get you guys on here and let you argue with each other.
I tried to get him on here. No, I don't.
That would be great.
No, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't like that, Jeff? You don't want to argue politics on the radio?
No,
Isn't that
not
what's
really.
popular right now?
No.
That's great. All right, here we go with the Gilson Report. Let's get this thing going. I really want to get into this conversation with Gary. I've been listening to his other interviews, and this is going to be really cool, guys. All right, here we go. We're going to move on with the Gilson Report. You did bring me some news, right? Scientists suggest aliens look like us. I don't know where they're going to get proof of this, but scientists suggest that extraterrestrials may be shaped by natural selection and could look like us. Previous studies made predictions about aliens based on what we see on Earth, but in a new study, scientists have used evolutionary theory to make predictions. Scientists suggest aliens are likely to be shaped by the same processes as us. They are likely to exist in various complexities, ranging from basic cell-like aliens to aliens with intricate human-like parts. This is what you found, Jeff?
Yeah, it's one of them.
They don't have... Okay, researchers from the University of Oxford have shown for the first time how evolutionary theory can be used to predict alien behavior. Their theory supports the argument that foreign life forms undergo natural selection and, like us, are evolving to be stronger over time. Mr. Sam Levine, lead author of the study, said a fundamental task of astrobiologists, which are those who study life in the cosmos, is thinking about what extraterrestrial life might be like. How does this even make the news? But making predictions about aliens is hard. So they got no proof of this. Is this just like this is like a clickbait article,
Well,
Jeff?
I know, but when I was reading it, who was it that said they had a dream of the aliens that had like different personalities, even some wore glasses?
I don't know, but this is
Was that not Rich?
maybe. But this is there's no proof of it. This is you got to watch out for this stuff, Jeff. Did you read this article?
I read that article.
You read it.
Yeah, and I was thinking about whoever's on the radio the other day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure
It kind
because
of matched up. That's why
we
I
got
sent it.
doctors and scientists from Oxford or whatever, but they don't have. They're just thinking about it, you know, like what we do, you know.
Okay.
And I'm not mad, Jeff. I'm just.
I know, but like I said, I don't know who was on the radio the other day that's talking about fat, old, even some wearing glasses. Aliens had different like body shapes.
Yeah, you really got to talk into that mic, Jeff. They can't hear you. Right, that's good though.
Well, anyway, it kind of went along with who was on the show the other day, so I was like, that's kind of cool.
All right, well, let's move on. I get it. I'm glad you sent me that article. I'm not mad. You're doing a great job. You really are.
Well, I've been kind of slacking lately.
See, I knew. Here comes the honesty now. All right, let's see. Under the skin. Here we go. More transhumanism. I've been warning you guys about this. How insertable microchips could unlock the future. Volunteers in Melbourne have had microchips inserted for 3 months. Did you guys know about this? Designed to unlock doors and carry out other tasks. Now, this has been happening, I think, in our state with 3M, but now they're testing it in Australia. The microchip is about the size of a grain of rice and usually inserted in the webbing between the thumb and the forefinger using a needle the same thickness as used in body piercing. It feels, these guys are saying, says insertable technology expert Kayla Heffernan. Insertable technology experts. For all you people that are unemployed, there you go. There's another job you can sign up for. You want to be an insertable technology expert and put microchips in people. They say it's like getting a drip. Now, once the needle is removed, the incision heals in a few days and the microchip remains, allowing the wearer to open doors with the brush of a hand like a wizard, provided they only wish to access that one particular place. Microchips are encased in an inert glass capsule and typically inserted between the thumb and the forefinger. Now, it's going to be commercially available. Insertable microchips are only large enough to hold one access code and a small amount of other information. Yeah, right. So the days of replacing an entire wallet and keychain with a tiny computer under the skin are not yet upon us. At least that's what these cats are saying. But the future is coming, but it's not in a rush. Now, this is an article. This isn't a warning article. This was an article Jeff found where they're trying to open you up to this, I think. They're trying to get you ready for this. They want you to be happy about it. 10 volunteers received a microchip at the Australian Centre for the Moving Image in Melbourne on Wednesday to mark the launch of PausFest, a technology and culture festival now in its 8th year. Their chips were preloaded with a 3-day pass to the festival, and will be programmed to unlock the door to their home, gym, or workplace, or potentially to function as their public transport pass. When the festival is held in 4 months' time, the volunteers will take part in a panel with Heffernan to talk about whether they found the chip useful. So that is another article just to get you used to it, just to get you ready for what's coming. Now, I know that we've talked about this with Dave. We talked about it with Casper Parks, the transhumanism thing, artificial intelligence. You know, this isn't fear porn. This is what's happening. They're trying to get you to accept this stuff because it's coming.
The chip is coming.
The chip is coming. That's for sure.
All your hospitals are working on it, too.
Where? How did you figure? Are you sure about this?
I'm positive.
Did you see this somewhere?
I know someone that works like administration.
Jeff has an insider.
Yes.
And they're talking about it at the hospital?
Yes, it's a big deal. They've been on seminars and stuff.
Oh, God.
And they're like, I can't believe I'm hearing this.
So this is in more places than we thought.
Oh, yeah.
Really.
And she said everybody's sitting around there thinking it's great. And she's like, I can't believe they said that.
That's what they do, man. They get you all, they make it like what they did with 3M. They threw a party and gave them T-shirts and acted like it was something to celebrate, It's just a mind trick to get you to accept this shit.
It's coming.
And surely, well, we can't put much technology on there, but it can open doors and get you into that and open the copy machine. But it's not going to track you.
All
right?
your medical records.
Yeah.
For
right.
sure.
Yeah, it's not going to track you at all. Hey, you know what, guys? We usually do a few more articles in our Gilson report, but, I've been listening to Mr. Gary Parker talk about this message, and I know you're going to have some questions for him, but this is going to be interesting, so trust me on this when I say we're going to move on into the break for a very good reason. All right, when we come back, Gary Parker reveals a message given to us in the pyramids. And they were given to us by aliens, possibly angels, maybe both. I don't know. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Pull back the blinds and uncover the truth. This is Lighting the Void Radio.
KTLK Digital Broadcasting. We rock the paranormal talk.
Greetings, I'm Space Boy. I started writing music at an early age, inspired by such synth stylings of the Pet Shop Boys, Erasure, Kraftwerk, Art of Noise, and 8-Bit. I have crafted my work into a hybrid of synth pop with modern electronica rock music of today, with pounding beats, high-energy arpeggios, soothing orchestral moods, and rock and roll. Space Boy will surely be a part of anyone's music collection. So head on over to spaceboymusic.com and get you some cool stuff.
The Fringe FM presents proud sponsor, Ancient Life Oil. The real oil. CBD is truly ancient life oil from the source. Here's some exciting news. This oil has no psychoactive effects, and it's legal in 50 states. I take it myself, and it's truly changing my life in phenomenal ways. Insomnia? Not a problem for me. And inflammation? Well, this is just my experience. Be proactive and do your own research. Go get it yourself at ancientlifeoil.com. When you're healthy, happiness comes easy. The truth about this wonderful plant is that it wants to give back to mankind life, longevity, and happiness. It's totally organic, non-GMO, and infused with high-quality liquid coconut MCT oil. Do yourself a favor and go to ancientlifeoil.com. Again, that's ancientlifeoil.com.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Hi, this is Ryan Gable, host of the Secret Teachings radio show. If you are interested in ancient knowledge and hidden mysteries, as well as a unique and balanced perspective on conspiracies, symbols, and the occult, then join me every Saturday, Sunday, and Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Fringe.
Come own the night with us. Hi there, this is Dave Scott, host of Spaced Out Radio. Every Monday through Friday, right here on KTLK, The Fringe FM, I'm going to lead you down a path of mystery, intrigue, and suspense. So whether you've seen a UFO, had a run-in with Bigfoot or Dogman, or had ghosts running around your house, this is the place to be. Spaced Out Radio, right here on KTLK.
This is Lighting the Void Radio with your host, Joseph Roop. It's the show about truth-seeking and freeing the spirit, shattering your limited beliefs, revealing hidden truths, and much, much more.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. Next week on the program, Joanne Clarkson and our very own Space Boy and Chris Zuger from Den of Lore. All right, let's bring on our guest, Gary Parker. Now, Gary Parker was born and raised in Wilmington, Delaware. He attended the University of Delaware. He moved to Los Angeles, California in the late 70s, worked in real estate business, and became a developer. He lived in Sherman Oaks, California for 25 years, where he decided to try his hand at writing movie scripts. Gary Parker created Rose Productions with his writing partner, Marjorie Rose. They were lucky enough to have written and sold a few scripts in Hollywood. They had one movie made titled Thank Heaven, starring Jenny McCarthy. After a compelling dream, Gary Parker set out on the journey of his lifetime to restore the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. Gary will discuss how the revelation in a NASA photo leads to the discovery of an alien message and how it's connected with the Great Pyramid. His connections to Richard Branson, Elon Musk, and Gwenn Shotwell of SpaceX all play a part in this unfolding mystery. An alien visitation on July 26 of 2016 changed everything for him. This being spoke telepathically to Gary. Now, all answers are in the NASA photo, and this is where his story begins. And I want to say welcome, Gary, to Lighting the Void. Thanks for coming on and telling us the story, man.
Hey, Joe, thanks, man. This is great. Thanks a lot.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I've actually been listening to all of your shows you've been on. You know, Midnight in the Desert. You was on Beyond the Darkness, Into the Paranormal. And you're
Dude, I'm so famous. I'm famous.
You're really, but I can tell you're super excited about this message. You're really trying to get this out. And
you're absolutely right.
You can't find, nobody can find you. You're not on Facebook, Twitter, or nothing. You're just kind of
no, because I'm technologically challenged, so I don't know how to do all those things. And to be honest with you, though, I was on Facebook, but they put me on restriction because I was sending out too many "let me on your shows," and they emailed me and said, we're going to put you on restriction till November 29th or November 29th. And I said, guys, I'm just trying to get on some shows. And they said, no, we don't want to hear about it. They said I was using Facebook too much. I said, oh my gosh.
That's crazy. Isn't that crazy?
Happens. What are you going to do?
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm glad you're here to talk to us about this message. And you're a writer in the Writers Guild and everything. And so tell us about, before we get into, do you want to talk about the message that you saw on the pyramid or the dream first?
Well, first of all, the dream came a lot later. Okay, but the one thing I want to tell your audience, what I'm going to explain to them, they're going to be able to see it actually, is that on July 26, 2022, aliens, a huge alien, and these aliens are actually what ancient man called God, is going to land on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem on July 26, 2022. So that's how I'm going to kick this show off, and then I'm going to explain to your listeners and you how you can actually see this in the NASA photo. Is that a good opener?
Oh yeah. And I mean, because we got skeptics out there, so yeah, there's great. Absolutely. It's great to have photos.
Okay, great. And I also want to tell your listeners, if you want to see the photos, the easiest way to see my bio, the photos, and my drawings is to go to Gary Parker, Midnight in the Desert. That's Gary Parker, Midnight in the Desert, and you can see everything there.
And you got the large pictures on Midnight in the Desert when you was on with Heather Wade. They're all underneath there, stacked, so you guys could check that out.
And also, if any of your – because I've had – as you know, Joe, I've had many people go, well, you're insane. This is crazy. But they really didn't take the time to look at the photo. So if I can give them another email where they can email me, and I can actually send them some things so they can see it. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great. Go ahead.
They can email me at G, that's for Gary, g.parker36gary at AOL.com. That's g.parker36, that's a 3 and a 6, Gary, 1R, Gary, at AOL.com. If any of your listeners have any questions or they need more information in order to see this, they can just email me and I'll send them stuff.
See there, guys? That's awesome. That's no trying to hide nothing here. It's all there, right? So exactly. Now I'm looking at these pictures, and when I'm looking at them, I'm seeing the writing, but I'm telling you, and your mic is popping just a little bit. I think that's because I had you turn it up, and that was my fault. So,
do you want me to turn it down just a little bit?
Yeah, you could turn it down a little bit, and I'll turn it up for you on my end. But
how's this? Is that better?
Yeah, that's a lot better. I had looked at this picture, and the first thing I thought was Hebrew, right? Maybe possibly yes. Hebrew, possibly. I really couldn't tell. I've never seen anything like it, but there was a hint of Hebrew in there.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, but before we go into that, if I can tell the quick story about how this all came together a couple of years ago. Is that a good idea?
Absolutely.
Okay, so what happens is a little over 2 years ago, I was sitting here, and I'm always coming up with ideas for movie or TV shows, whatever I think I can sell. But I thought, how fun would it be in order to promote world peace, get the whole world together and do a project? Well, the one project I thought would be really cool that I could get the whole world involved in would be restoring the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx in Egypt. And when I say that, Joe, what I was hoping for was to globally crowdfund it, where you get everybody in the world together, pitch in some money, and when I say everybody, because everybody loves the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx, and well, pretty much everybody. I mean, North Korea may not, or I don't know, but most people love it. So what happened was I needed to get some seed money, and after I had the idea, I went and I pitched it to a few Hollywood producers, friends of mine. And they said, Gary, this sounds like one of those Hands Across America on a global level, and this sounds awesome. And I said, well, guys, I need anywhere from $5 to maybe $15 million seed money to get it going. And I said, do you guys have any email addresses or phone numbers to billionaires? And because I figure these guys, billionaires, they think they're pharaohs anyway, so they would love to be part of this.
Right.
That was my first idea. So one of my producers' friends said, yeah, I have Sir Richard Branson. Do you know who he is, Joe?
Oh, yeah. Virgin Mobile,
he owns Virgin Galactic, Virgin Music. He's a billionaire. He owns islands and all that kind of stuff. So one of the producers said, Gary, whatever you do, I'm going to give you this email address, but do not tell him where you got it. I said, no problem. Another producer said to me, Gary, I have Elon Musk's email address. And I said, awesome. And again, he said, don't tell them where you got it if they contact you. Well, Joe, I always have big ideas. And yeah, I've been in Hollywood and I've met with a lot of the heads of the studios, but I never in a million years thought a billionaire was going to email me back. Okay. So I send out the email with a heading that says Restoring the Great Pyramid and Sphinx, globally crowdfunded. Okay. So Joe, the next morning, like 7:30 in the morning, I get an email from Sir Richard Branson. And he goes, Gary, I don't know who you are. I don't know how you got my email address, but I love this idea. And if it's for real, I want to be part of it. And I went, oh, my God, this is amazing. And I emailed him right back, and I said, this idea is in its infancy. You're going to have to give me 6 or 7 months, and I'll get back to you. And he emailed me back, and he said, here's the number to my foundation in New York. Whatever information you have, send it to me, and we'll CC them. And I said, oh, my God, Joe, I was blown away. I'm going, this is awesome. 10 minutes after I sent that email back to Sir Richard Branson, I don't get an email from Elon Musk, but I get an email from a lady by the name of Gwenn Shotwell. I didn't know who she was, but she is the president of SpaceX. And she said, and she emailed me, she said, Gary, Elon and I love this idea. We would love to be part of this. He wants to know how you got his email address. And if this is a joke, then it's a joke. We don't have anything to do with it. I emailed her right back, and I said, thank you so much. It isn't a joke. I'm going to put this together, but I need some. I just wanted to. I was just fishing, Joe. Just seeing. Yeah. So anyway, all of a sudden, I have billionaires that are saying we love this idea. But then you think about it, Joe. Like I said, they're kind of like mini pharaohs anyway. So who wouldn't want to be part of putting your name on the Great Pyramid? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, so what I did, I was so excited, and I put the cart before the horse, and I said, you know what? I'm sorry, the phone's going off here. I apologize.
Well, you're a popular man.
Can you hold on? It's Elon Musk. Anyway, Joe.
So, put him on the phone. I want to talk to that guy too.
Get him on the line. So it's going to go off. I'm really sorry about that.
That's okay. Live radio. It happens.
Okay, so what happens is I then decide I'm going to put the cart before the horse, and I'm going to, as you know, Joe, I have built homes, and I've built a couple apartment complexes in Los Angeles, and some condos, and I've done that kind of thing, but nothing this big. But you have to do a lot of homework, and it takes a long time before you can get your building permits. And I ballparked the restoration of the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid to cost approximately $7 billion, and would take probably anywhere from 10 to 12 years. So then I said, well, I'm going to get a NASA photo, and I'm going to zoom in on the Great Pyramid, and I'm going to see where you can put men and trucks and all that kind of stuff. As you know, though, Joe, is the Giza Plateau where the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx are located. It's sacred land. You can't just drive on there. You have to go through the Antiquities Department in Egypt, and it's extremely secure. And anyway.
Yeah, I know John Anthony West was telling me about all that when I was talking to him. He said it's a pain to deal with sometimes.
But then again, you got to figure these are the oldest structures since mankind started.
Right, that's important.
For everything, and I'm going to explain to you how valuable they really are. So anyway, so what happens is, Joe, I download this one photo, only one, and if I can tell your listeners and that photo is there on the Gary Parker Midnight in the Desert. And you can see it where on the right is if you're looking at it right now, on the right is the Giza Plateau. On the left is Cairo. You can see it, correct?
Right, yeah.
So, and if I can, so I'm sorry. Sometimes I try to talk too fast.
It's all right, man. I get it. I wish I wouldn't have told you to turn your mic up, though, because I think that your mic is like taking in too much audio a little bit, and it's cutting you out. So whatever level you had it when I first talked to you, keep it that, and I'll turn you up.
Hold on. Is that a little better?
That's about as good as it's going to get. It's all right.
Sorry, I'm low rent. I'm a low rent guy.
It's okay. It's okay.
So anyway, so what happens is I get the NASA photo, I download it, and I zoom in on the Great Pyramid. Well, you know, Joe, most people who look at these NASA photos, they're actually, the photos are shot from the International Space Station, and they're shot from 200 miles above Earth. So most people look at them and they say, oh, that looks nice, and they just move on. Nobody zooms in. So when I zoomed into the Great Pyramid, I saw things that look like shadows. But the closer I got, the more they started to look like letters. So I said, oh my God, that looks like a letter. So, and a bunch of letters, and they're gigantic, almost as big as the pyramid themselves. So what I did was I got a piece of paper, I wrote them out, and I took a photo with my phone, and I sent it to a Judaic scholar, some Aramaic scholars, some Egyptologists in Egypt and in the Middle East, and one Judaic scholar out here in Tucson at the University of Arizona. And when I say Judaic scholars, they're the people who like work on the Dead Sea Scrolls. They read ancient Hebrew all the time, because I wanted to see if it said something. So what happens is when I emailed them, I said, do these letters say anything? And if they do, can you translate them for me? So I get like 6 emails back, and 5 of them say, yes, it is writing of some kind, and it's a mixture of languages, including ancient Hebrew. And they said, where did you find this? And I said, I found it written beside the Great Pyramid in a NASA photo. And they said, well, send it to us. So one of the ladies, she's a very famous Egyptologist in Egypt. Her name is Dr. Salima Ikram, and she's the head Egyptologist at the American University of Cairo. And she emailed me right back and said, Gary, this is impossible. She said, there's no buildings there that would make these shadows. And she said, and these are letters. And she said, and some of the shadows are going up onto the Great Pyramid. She said the only thing that's there beside the Great Pyramid is on that side is a boat or a small museum of a pharaoh's boat that they dug up like 15 years ago, and they built a small museum beside there. She said, other than that, there's no way these letters should be appearing. And the cool thing, though, is, Joe, is that they only appear in this one photo, which was downloaded onto the internet from NASA on July 26, 2012. So anyway, so the guys, they email me back and they say, well, it looks like it says, I am who I am, creator of all things. And I said, oh, God, that's incredible. So I kept looking on the photo for more letters, and I found some Hebrew, the things that looked exactly like Hebrew, and I wrote those down, and I took a picture with my phone, and I sent them down to the Judaic scholar here at the University of Arizona, whose name is Dr. Edward Wright, and he said, Gary, I know what this says, but you know what? You have to come down to my office. I want to meet you because I can't believe you're finding this on a NASA photo. You have to show me. So I said, no problem. So what I did was, and Joe, I didn't tell your audience, I didn't tell you, the best way to find these letters and all the images we're going to talk about in the next hour and 40 minutes is you should download the photo onto a laptop computer. Download it onto a laptop, make the room as dark as you can. Pitch black is best. What will happen is that you open up your screen as wide as it will go. When you zoom in on the Great Pyramid, lift up the computer by putting your finger under like the keypad, and you lift it up a little bit, and the letters will pop out like a 3D picture. Now, a lot of people say to me, well, why do I have to do that? Well, I'll explain that later, but that's the best way to see it, and that's how the letters will pop out at you. So anyway, so I go down to and Joe, please interrupt me at any time.
I'm just taking this all in. It's like I'm reading a book right now. So this is pretty cool. So just keep going. You're all right.
Right. So what happens is Dr. Wright says, come down to my office. So I set up an appointment. I take my laptop down with me. We sit in his room. We turn off all the light. We close all the blinds. And you got to remember, this guy, Dr. Wright, he's worked on the Dead Sea Scrolls. This guy is the real deal. He's been doing it for 40 years. All of a sudden, he sees that one of the letters, not beside the Great Pyramid, but above the Great Pyramid, that are written in ancient Hebrew. And he goes, Gary, this says God and the Lord of the underworld. And he sees it. He says, but Gary, you know what? He goes, I'm not going to believe it. And
he said, the Lord of the underworld?
God and the Lord of the underworld.
Okay, God and the Lord of the underworld. All
yes,
right.
And as a matter of fact, that's on Gary Parker, Midnight in the Desert. If you scroll down, you will see it in writing. It looks like a big E and a big L with a W, and there's a period above the W on the left-hand side, and then another EL. And believe it or not, that little thing there says God and the Lord of the underworld in ancient Hebrew. So, and as a matter of fact, you can actually see Dr. Wright's notes written below it in pen, where he was translating it for me. And he says to me, he says, Gary, I'm not going to believe this. He said, because you may have photoshopped this. And I said, yes, that's possible. I said, but how many people know ancient Hebrew? He goes, well, not many. He said, so for you to actually write that would really be tough. He goes, but Gary, you walked in off the street. You're showing me this. You're showing me things that are impossible. And I said, and at that time, that was about a year and a half ago, maybe a little longer. I didn't know everything that I know now. And I said, well, maybe it is impossible. I said, but think about this, Dr. Wright. I said, if God or any alien wanted to communicate with us without scaring us to death, how cool would it be that they would use NASA in one of their photos? I said, because hardly anybody can refute NASA. You can't say, oh, we hacked into NASA. Nobody can hack into NASA. They're geniuses. Like, you could hack into Washington easier than hacking into NASA.
Unless you're a flat earther, then you just don't believe anything that comes from NASA.
That's totally insane. But anyway, so that's just totally insane. But anyway, anyway, that's funny. But yes, so he sees it and he says, Gary, man, I'm sorry. I'm just not going to believe it. So I said, okay, no problem. And so I left. So what happens is after I realized there was a lot of Hebrew, not only ancient, but regular Hebrew in this photo, I said, I should get together with some rabbis, because maybe this stuff has to do with, the Judaism and eschatology, which is prophecy, end of the world type stuff. And you got to remember too, Joe, that I was finding more and more stuff all the time in the photo. So before I went to meet with the rabbis, I actually, because I went up to Arizona State University and I met with two computer science professors who actually can build software. And one was named Dr. Gupta and the other one was named Dr. Whitehouse. And I wanted them to see this photo because if your audience looks at the photo in a dark room on a laptop, when you tilt it, it has 4 levels to it. It's amazing. And on each level are millions and millions of people, buildings, writing, and on the bottom level is Hebrew. It's all Hebrew. So I wanted to show these levels to some people who know a lot about the computers. And I figure who better than professors at ASU. So I make an appointment. I go up. We sit in their office, turn out all the lights. They see it. Dr. Whitehouse says to me, Gary, we don't have the technology. What you're showing me, that's impossible. And I said, I know. I said, I've heard that before. And he said, Gary, the only people on the planet that may have this technology is NASA. And why would they put this stuff in their own photo? I said, well, something tells me they didn't put it in their photo. So then Dr. Gupta said, Gary, here's the other thing. He said, because he was using the magnifying glass. He said, Gary, also, there's a binary code in here with no ones. They're all zeros. I said, is that impossible? And they said, yes. All of our binary codes are 1 and 0. They said, this is too much. This is too much. And I said, guys, I could use some help. And just like Dr. Wright, they said, hey, go find it somewhere else. This is too nuts for us. And I said, okay. So what I did was a couple of days later, I had a meeting with 5 rabbis, 3 at one time and 2 at the other. So I showed the rabbis, and the rabbis, they saw the ancient Hebrew that said God and the Lord of the underworld. And one of the rabbis said, Gary, beside this writing is a date. And it says, I said, well, what is it? And they said, it says July 26th, 2022. Does that mean anything to you? They asked me. And I said, no. I said, other than the photo was downloaded onto the internet on July 26th, same date, 2012. And they said, well, that's 10 years from 2012 to 2022. They said, does that mean anything to you? I said, the only thing I can think of is this. If that was downloaded onto the internet by NASA on July 26, 2012, well, on December 21st, 2012, which is 5 months away, the Mayan calendar ended. Remember that whole thing about the Mayan calendar?
Yeah,
ending?
everybody thought the world was going to end, and
Exactly.
I remember that.
Well, what it is, it didn't end, Joe, but there was a message, and the message is in this NASA photo, which was 5 months before. But you got to remember, I didn't find this until 2015, January of 2015. So it has been there this whole time. So the rabbis, after they saw it, and I showed them a lot of things in there, they said, Gary, you know what? We're just not going to believe it. And I said, well, I've heard that before. And they said, here's our two problems. They said, what you're showing us is a miracle. They said, and Joe, I haven't explained everything, and I'll explain it to you and your listeners, because I actually showed them how the alien / God was going to come down into the Temple Mount. They said, this is impossible for two reasons. I said, what's that? They said, number one, you're not Jewish. And number two, we believe that only miracles like this happen in Israel. Mm-hmm. And I laughed. I said, guys, you got to be joking.
Well, I've talked to rabbis. I know that's got to be true, because I've had them tell me the same thing.
I told them, I said, guys, I said that is so limiting. I said, how can you think that only miracles happen every day? They said, yeah, but not miracles like you just showed us. And I said, I understand, because a lot of things they saw are in the Torah and are in their eschatology, the prophecy. And they said, Gary, that's impossible. It's impossible. And I said, well, a lot of things are impossible, but in other words, you're not going to help me. They said, no, we're not going to have anything to do with you. I said, okay. So, Joe, I kept hitting these brick walls. So when I come back home, I say, you know what? It's time to get in touch with NASA. I got to show NASA everything. Okay. So what I do was just like I emailed Elon Musk and Sir Richard Branson, I emailed in Northern California, there's a division of NASA, and it's called the Ames Research Center. And the Ames Research Center are the guys who run the robots up on Mars. Okay. So what happens is I email the president, the director, and his name was Dr. Peter Warden. And Joe, my heading said that one of my emails said, alien message written beside the Great Pyramid. Like to talk, I'm sorry. It said alien message written beside the Great Pyramid. And then I wrote him a little email saying, let me show this to you in a NASA photo. Get back to me if you're interested. Well, I figured that NASA, and I also sent it to 3 other physicists that work up there. And you can actually Google these guys, and they have their email right online. So I figured there was no way that the guy who's the director of NASA's the Ames Research Center was going to get back to me. I thought, these guys are too busy. They must get 10,000 emails a day. Joe,
well, I'm sure they do, And I'm sure they get stuff about that all the time. You got to think when somebody says something about the ancient pyramids.
Yes.
I mean, come on. They're going to be like, yeah, well, nobody's ever saw this before except you. Come on,
exactly.
Right?
I totally agree with that. So, but 15 minutes after I sent the thing to the email to Dr. Wright, and he said, send me the photo. I mean, not Dr. Wright. Dr. Peter Warden. He said, hi, Gary, this is Pete Warden. Send me the photo. I want to see what you got. Now, as soon as he said that, I thought to myself, wait a minute. Is this guy either not that busy, or did they have anything that has to do with Great Pyramid and an alien? Does that pop up like, look at this right away on their screen? So anyway, I sent it to him. And I sent him the photo, and I sent him everything, and I told him what I had found and everything, and I told him how to find it. The next morning, he emails me back, and he says, Gary, I can't find it. He says, I can't see it. So I emailed him back, and I said, are you in a dark room? Do you have it downloaded onto a laptop computer? And he said, I will. I said, well, after you do that, call me, and I'll instruct you over the phone. So he said, okay. 20 minutes later, he calls me. He says, okay, I'm in a room by myself. Tell me how to find it. So I show him how to find the letters beside the Great Pyramid. And it's silent for a few seconds. I say, now tilt your laptop. Now, are they popping out? He goes, oh yeah, I see them. I said, okay, now I want you to go above the great, up to the little pyramid, move over to the right a little bit. I want you to look at this. Can you see this? He goes, oh yeah, I see it. And I said, last thing I want you to see. I said, go way above the photo, zoom in on this, tilt your laptop back, and it's going to pop out at you like a Pixar movie from Pixar. And he goes, I see it. He goes, Gary, do me a favor. He goes, let me get back to you in about 3 weeks. I want to show my superiors this. And I said, no problem. Thank you so much for getting back to me, and I'm glad you saw it. Joe, 3 weeks later, I see on the internet that Dr. Warden retired from NASA. He and Stephen Hawking, the great physicist, got together with a Russian billionaire, and they started a company to find ETs.
3 weeks after you showed him this.
3 weeks after, and he had cut off all contact with me.
Huh. Now, did you try to contact him anymore? Did you ask him what's up? What's the deal? Or
I tried 3 or 4 times, but then, as you know, when you're restricted from going on, it just says, it sends back. It comes back. The email comes back. So yeah, he just cut me off. So, but the good thing is I saved all his emails back and forth, which was good. So anyway, so I'm thinking, oh my God, this is horrible. Now this guy knows about it, but anyway, it gets better. It gets better and it gets crazier. Now, what happens is, and like I said, I was a little depressed, and I'm never like a depressed guy.
You don't seem like it.
No. I'm like, I never stop, and I'm always trying to be positive. So what happens is I think, man, well, that really sucked, but let's see what happens. So this is where, and I got to tell your listeners too, Joe, is I've never, ever had a paranormal experience in my whole life. I've never seen a ghost. I've never seen a UFO. I believe in them, but I've never seen them. Okay. And I very rarely ever dream or ever have bad dreams. Okay. So, and I sleep like a rock. I sleep 8 hours, 7, 8 hours straight through. I never get up. So, and that's how it's been my whole life. So what happens is I'm asleep that night after the guy from NASA, Dr. Peter Warden, gave me the boot. I'm in bed that night. And like I said, after I found all this stuff in the NASA photo, I'm thinking this is something that is trying to communicate with us, and I'm supposed to help out somehow. But that just was in my own head. That I put myself through this. So that night I'm asleep and I hear a voice in my head. And like I said, this has never happened to me before, Joe. I hear a voice, and it's a man's voice, a regular voice, and it says, Gary, go down to the river. Get ready for this. It says, go down to the river, stand in the water, face east, and put your hands up in the air and say these words in Hebrew. And the words were, Father, 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 Holy, Holy, Holy. Where did you come from? Where did you really come from?
Which that's like Abba, 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 Kadosh, Kadosh.
Yeah, Kadosh,
like
Kadosh.
That, yeah.
Exactly. So what happens is I hear this voice, and naturally, because of all the stuff happening, all the things I'm finding on this photo, I'm thinking this is for real. I got to get down the river. Now, luckily for me, right down, not too far from me, there's a small town in Arizona called Florence, Arizona, and in Florence there's a river, and it's called the Gila River. Okay, and most of it's dried up, but there's this one area about maybe 3 miles from me that has water in it, and it's like a small lake. So I said, I jumped up out of bed, and I go down to the river. I stand in the river, and Joe, I put my hands up, and I forgot to tell you, I didn't know how to say it in
Hebrew.
Because I don't know. So I called one of the rabbis, and I said, can you phonetically spell out how I can say these words in Hebrew? He said, sure I can. So I practiced it for a couple hours, and I went down to the river, and I stand up there, and as you know, I'm loud anyway. So I say it really, really loud, and I say, Abba, 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 Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Where did you come from? Where did you really come from? And I say it real loud, maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 times, and nothing happened. I said, this was cool though, and you got to know also that the spot where I was standing was maybe 400 or 500 yards off the main road, so no one can see, and it's in the middle of the desert. You know what I mean? It's like there's nothing around. So what happens is I come back home and I say, well, that was cool. I really wanted something to appear or something out there. All of a sudden, Joe, that night, and I usually wake up always between 7 and 7:15. Okay, and I'm in good shape, so like I work out all the time, so I'm never really ever sick. So what happens is I wake up and I'm covered in sweat the next morning. I'm covered in sweat, and it's still dark outside. I look at the clock, it says 5:45, and I go, what's wrong with me? Why am I covered in sweat? And I'm like shaking a little bit. It was like something weird was happening. I look across at my computer that's on the desk, and it's open. The laptop's open, and it's off, but it pops onto that NASA photo. And from the bed, I can see in the NASA photo things that I had never seen before. It was from a distance I could see them, Joe. And just so your listeners, when they're looking at the photo, and if you have them there in front of you, Joe, if you can see, I have a picture of the NASA photo, and split down. And I actually have on the right side, I have it outlined in red. Can you see that at all?
Yeah, I've got that thumb up on the website as well too. But the bigger one's probably better if you guys go to Midnight in the Desert, Gary Parker. It's bigger there.
Right, and you can see the whole Giza area on the right hand side of that photo is outlined in red. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, what that is actually, if you look at it, if you make it a little smaller on your screen and you look at it, that is the left profile of a huge alien head, not a gray alien. When you look at it, its head goes out of the frame. Right where its little nose would be is where the Great Pyramid is, just above it. It has a little kind of a little pointy nose. Then you come down, there's a lip, and then there's a mouth, and then there's a round chin with a thick neck. Can you see it? Can you make it out at all?
Yeah. I see where you have one where you traced it too, I think, in white, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I did a trace of it. But if you look at it, and if you think about this, there was a pharaoh named Akhenaten, and he had a real large, elongated head. And his wife was named Nefertiti. Well, she's a real famous bust. She's like one of the most beautiful women in Egypt, and her bust is very famous. And if you think of her profile of her head going out of the frame, but that's what you're looking at there. You're looking at the left profile of a huge alien head. Can you make it out?
Yeah, I mean, if you got to turn it the right way, but absolutely you can. Yeah.
Okay.
It's an elongated head for sure.
Yes, it's really big, and it goes out of the picture. But your audience can actually see it outlined in red, and you can also on the right. You actually saw that I drew the alien, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's facing in the wrong direction. That's not his. That's not his. That's not his profile that you're looking at on the NASA photo. Okay. So I get up and I see that outline of that face, and I say, "Oh my God, that whole right-hand side of that NASA photo is the left profile of a huge alien head." And that's probably who put that writing down there. So I'm so excited about it. I jump up, I get my truck, I drive down to the river again, and it's early in the morning, like 7 in the morning, and I yell up the same things, and I say this, just like this, Joe. I go, "Hey, is this for real? Is this really happening? Because if it is, show me everything. I want to know everything, and I want to help. Whatever it is, I want to help. And you're blowing me away here." So I come back home, and I can see everything in this NASA photo. When I say everything, Joe, if your listeners zoom in, zoom out, make it real big, make it real small, they will see everything in this NASA photo. And there are millions and billions of images, and most of the things are all about the prophecy, like biblical prophecy, eschatology, God, Jesus, the whole 9 yards. Everything is in this photo. And just know this too. After I went down to that river for the first 2 times, since that time, which has been a little over a year and a half, I've been down to that river between 50 and 60 times. And every time I go down there, I see more and more. I also I've actually had friends come down and film me down there, and things appear beside me in the water, but they only appear when they're downloaded onto the internet. Yes, onto the internet, and they send it to me, and we tilt the laptop computer. It's amazing. It's totally amazing. Do you have any questions?
Well, I'm just kind of taking this all in. I'm thinking about, I've studied occultism and magic and stuff, and in the Golden Dawn and in the OTO and those guys, they do their rituals and vibrate Hebrew names. They use Hebrew letters. They invoke archangels on each side of them as if it was the Garden of Eden. And these are mystery schools. And I remember Aleister Crowley saying that he met an alien he called the Lamb and even drew a picture of it. And it kind of looks like this. So I don't know if it ties in or not, but, these are mystery schools using ancient Hebrew vibrations and letters and stuff.
Yes.
And they also involved Egypt as well, especially
Yes.
in the Golden Dawn. So,
well, what it is you might say, and a lot of people say to me, well, Gary, how did all this get on a NASA photo? Was it put there in one day? Like what, how did this appear? All this stuff. Well, what happened, Joe, is after I found it, I went back to Egypt. Egypt has road maps, and they have a satellite. So what happens is every time they do work, they take pictures from their satellite. So I went to NASA to NASA's website, and I went to the Egyptian Road Department website, and I pulled up all the photos from going back to 1999 to 2012. Okay, when the photo was downloaded onto the NASA website, onto the internet. So what happened was when I went back, I noticed that the writing that is beside the pyramid on July 26, 2012, what happens is it is in 1999, that writing is at the top of the photo. And every 6 months, it got closer and closer and closer to the Great Pyramid. 13 years later, it ended up right beside the Great Pyramid. So that told me that the sand or the whole area was being vibrated and using the sunlight and using the sand to make these images and making them come closer and closer to the Great Pyramid. Okay, so I figured what happened was the Great Pyramid is a machine. It works on vibration. It's never been turned off, and it sends out these messages. Now, 6 months after the writing was beside the Great Pyramid, it started to wash away. Okay, it started to wipe away, and I noticed that. So if it was like an old time cartoon, and you had all the pictures and you flicked them, with your thumb, you would see the writing comes down right beside the Great Pyramid. So anyway, all these theories were going in my head, and I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. So I would go down to the river and I would yell up and I say, look, are my theories right? Is this and I never heard anything, and I never had any more voices in the dreams. But I figured if nobody has this much time on their hands where they can go and do what I did. But if they look at the NASA photo, if they study it, they will find this stuff. Now, here's the coolest thing in the world that happened. Okay, so a year goes by, maybe a little over a year goes by, and I'm doing all the research, and I've gone on hundreds of meetings, and I've met with priests, and I've met with rabbis, and I've shown them all this stuff, and I've met with ministers and pastors, and a lot of them, when I show them the things in this photo, because it all has to do with end of days, prophecy, and all that kind of stuff. Some of them start crying, and I said, "Why are you crying?" And they said, "Because it's the end of the world." And I said, "No." I said, "It's the end of the world as we know it." I said, "But the world's not going anywhere. None of us are going to go anywhere." I said, so I'm telling them this. They're all freaking out when they see the stuff on the NASA photo.
Well, that's what they've been taught their whole life, So.
That's it. And it's the thing is when you see it, and you I'm going to get back to what I was building up to, but I've actually had people who wanted to see it so bad. I had approximately 10 people drive out from Texas, and they met me here because I actually have a place at the fire department in Florence where there's a room there where I can show people like that. So a crowd came out, 10 from Texas and 7 from New Mexico, and I showed them how to find everything, and they just freaked out. They said, "This changes everything," and I said, "I think it's supposed to." So. anyway, so just know any of your listeners, if they want to hop in the car and come out and meet me, I'll not only show them everything in the photo, but I'll also take them down to the river, because the people from New Mexico and Texas wanted me to take them down to the river. So we did. They had a great time. So anyway, so what happens is it's in July, and it's July 25th, and I'm asleep, and I hear the voice, and it says, "Go to the river tomorrow."
Hey, so let's do this. I don't mean to cut you off, but we're at a break.
Absolutely.
This is a perfect time to do that when you're about to get this message. We're going to go into a break and take care of that. Take care of some business real quick, and then we'll be back. It's getting interesting. This is a pretty interesting story. Gary Parker, an alien message. We'll be right back, guys. Do not go anywhere.
Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe.FM, Napa Valley, California, Little Rock, Arkansas.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Come own the night with us. Hi there, this is Dave Scott, host of Spaced Out Radio. Every Monday through Friday, right here on KTLK, The Fringe FM, I'm going to lead you down a path of mystery, intrigue, and suspense. So whether you've seen a UFO, had a run-in with Bigfoot or Dogman, or had ghosts running around your house, this is the place to be. Spaced Out Radio, right here on KTLK.
Paranormal. Somewhere between abnormal and paranormal.
The U.S. military holds the ability to time travel.
Jeremy Scott asks the questions that we're all dying to know.
Wow, that's a remarkable question.
Watch your step. Hide under your blankets.
The show that is going to make you think.
Prepare yourself for what you're about to hear.
This transmission is coming to
you. You're riding into the paranormal.
Live Saturday nights at 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern on KTLK, The Fringe.
Do you find yourself bored and longing to learn more about the mysteries and conspiracies behind our reality? Specifically, every Friday night from 7 to 9 Pacific? What a coincidence, because that's exactly when me, Gigi, and my lovely co-host Cortana kicked over the airwaves with just the right amount of intellectual stimulation to give you that eargasm of conversational excellence that you deserve. So be sure to check out our show, Shift Happens, every Friday night from 7 to 9 Pacific, that's 9 to 11 Central. And let's shake some talk radio tail feather, shall we? Right here on KTLK, The Fringe FM.
We are still getting strange on Sundays. Hey everyone, it's me, Dave Cruz, host of Beyond the Strange Radio, letting you know we're on live Sunday nights right here on The Fringe FM. The Strange Sunday saga continues live at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Listen on thefringe.fm or at beyondthestrange.com. Again, that's Sunday nights, 5 p.m. Pacific. See you there.
Hey, it is I, Kurt Green from the Kurt Green Hour. Come hang out with me every Wednesday night at midnight, Pacific Standard Time. As we unwind, hey, grab a cup of coffee, hang out with me, enjoy the ride. That's midnight every Wednesday night, right here on the Fringe.fm.
Hey Fringe FM listeners, guess what? TalkStream Live has just released a new paranormal app exclusively for the paranormal community called Paranormal Radio. Paranormal Radio has a great selection of streaming talk shows dealing with UFOs, the supernatural, sacred geometry, NDEs, and much more, including a network highly recommended, The Fringe FM. You can download Paranormal Radio right now from Google Play and the iTunes App Store.
This is Lighting the Void Radio with your host, Joseph Roop. It's the show about truth-seeking and freeing the spirit, shattering your limited beliefs, revealing hidden truths.
Call the show. Pick up the phone and dial 501-777-5631. That's 501-777-5631.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. We're talking to Gary Parker, who received an alien message and saw some writing in the ancient pyramids, and this is getting pretty interesting. We left off at the story where he's just about to tell us the message. Now, don't forget next week on the program, Joanne Clarkson, Space Boy, and Chris Uger from Den of Lore. All right, Gary. Now, you were telling us the message that you had received, and I'd cut you off right when you was about to, it was a perfect commercial break, actually. Right when it was getting very interesting. And we'll be back after these messages now. But yeah, so tell us, you had heard a voice. Is that what you said when I cut you off there? Okay.
Right. What happened was I hadn't heard the voice for a long, long time. And then it was July 25th, nighttime. And the voice said to me while I was asleep, go to the river. So I get up in the morning. It's July 26th. Now, you got to remember, July 26th, 2012, is when the photo was downloaded onto the internet from NASA. And like I said, it was July 26, 2016. I go down to the river because the voice told me to. I stand in the water and I yelled up the mantra and I said some other things. And all of a sudden, for the first time, and I'm facing east, and I always look up at the sky. And you got to remember, I'm out in the middle of the desert, so there's
Did anybody see you out there doing this stuff, man? Just out of curiosity.
I had friends, like I said, I had friends come down and they filmed me, but at this time there was nobody, naturally. So all of a sudden I'm standing in the water, I yell up, and I look up at the sky, and I kind of see, it almost looks like things are moving in the sky like a crystal, like almost like the sky itself. There's kind of like a circular movement of almost like mirrors or crystals. I said, uh-oh, something's happening. And so I noticed that if I explain this correctly, the water is like a small little lake. So it's small, but there's a lot of water in it. There's fish and there's ducks and stuff. So I'm looking up at these crystals, and the crystals move to my left, which is northeast, and they move up and they hover above, maybe 30, 40, 50 feet above the water. And they're probably, I'm going to say 20 yards in front of me, so I can't, it's not like I can reach them. All of a sudden, it looks like a platform of crystals form, like a huge platform of crystals. Below the crystals, get ready for this, Joe, are two cherubim show up. Now, cherubim are angels that have four faces. And there was this guy who was a prophet. His name was Ezekiel. Did you ever hear of him?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay. And he had these spinning wheels, and he had two sets of wings, and he had four faces. On his left side, he was a lion. On his right side, he was actually a raven. Above him, he looked almost like a bull or an ogre, but straight on, he looked human. Now, I knew who he was because he's in the NASA photo. And when I saw his face in the NASA photo, there was some writing below his face. And on the NASA photo, he's huge. His face is huge. And when I showed the rabbis this, they said, "Oh, that says Uriel." And at the time, I didn't know who that was. And I said, "Who's Uriel?" And they said, "Well, that's an angel. That's a cherubim And because, like I said, I'm not only have I not had any paranormal experiences, but I haven't been to a church, and I don't know, in 40 years, and I really don't know a lot about angels or anything like that.
Well, supposedly Uriel guards one of the gates of Eden. Or yeah,
exactly. That's what the rabbis told me. So I said, and naturally when they saw it, they said, Gary, we're not going to believe it. So I said, okay. So I go on, when I'm out at the river, I notice when I see these things, they appear, and there's two of them. Well, and they both have the two sets of wings. They're huge, like maybe 18, 20 feet tall, and they're hovering above the water, and the wheels are spinning. But I noticed, because after I talked with the rabbis, I went back and I read a lot of the Bibles, and I also looked at what Ezekiel saw and all these other things. And in his vision, there were 4 of them, and there were only 2 in front of me. And let me just say this too, Joe, that they did not look real. It looked like a projection, like someone was projecting it from the sky. So it didn't look like your hand. It looked like you could put it right through them. And they did look like burnt brass, like they were, half of them were on fire, half of them were normal looking, like flesh and blood. But like I said, a projection. And Uriel was talking to me with his mouth. I said, "You're Uriel," and he goes, "Yes." And he was speaking in English, and he said, "Abba wants to speak to you." And I'm like, "Holy cow, this is going to be the greatest thing in the world." So, and the other cherubim didn't say anything, but their wings were flapping and the wheels were spinning. And I said to Uriel, I said, "Are there only 2 of you because you're closer to Earth?" What I figured was, Joe, was when Ezekiel saw them, and remember, he was 14 years old when he saw them. That's what they say in the Bible anyway. Well, I'm not 14, so I didn't drop to my knees and not look at them. I was so excited. I said, "This is too cool. I'm not going to miss a beat of this." So I'm not dropping to my knees or anything. I'm just like, I want to talk to these things. So all of a sudden, above on the platform appears the alien who I drew in the NASA photo, right beside the NASA photo. He appears. He's huge. He must have been 30 feet tall. Now, is he really 30 feet tall? I don't know. But the projected image was huge, and his head was huge. And inside his face, because I looked right at his face, and Ezekiel never saw his face. But and I have a theory for that, why he didn't see his face. But his face, you could see it was alien, but inside of his face, it was made up of, I'm going to say, approximately 60 people. And when I say 60 people, I could see their faces. That's all I could see. But they were men and women. Okay?
Hold on a second now. Let me ask you this. Do you think that it's possible that you're on this vision quest thing, you're seeing this vision, all right? Do you think that it's possible that what you were being shown was real or was symbolic and not necessarily real, as in really what it's trying to tell you?
Maybe, but no, but personally, I've been doing this for a little over 2 years. So, and I can, like, if you were sitting beside me and I showed you everything, you'd say, "Oh my God, Gary, you're telling the truth." When you hear it over the radio and you can't really see it, like I said, everybody's skeptical until they show up at the Florence Fire Department and I show it to them. Then they say things like, "It's the end of the world." And so,
right.
Yes, so be skeptical now. But if you study it and you take a little bit of time to look at this photo, everything I saw at the river is in this photo. So, and when I saw the huge alien, which he actually told me to call him Abba, he's in the photo. He's in the photo in 6 different places. So yes, it's real, but it's so easy to say, for skeptics to say, "Well, I'm not going to believe that. That's just nuts." Well, take a little time and look at it. Just take a little time, like an hour, maybe 45 minutes, and you will see things and you'll say, "Oh my God, Gary's telling the truth." And if you have a little gas, come out to Florence and I will show you personally, and you'll say, "Oh my God, you're telling the truth." So, go ahead. Did you have another question?
The name is Abba. So the angel or this vision you saw said that Abba wants to talk to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So then all of a sudden he appears. Now he was huge, like you said, and he had that huge head, just like the photo, and he was wearing kind of a red robe, like a huge red robe that had a bunch of Hebrew writing on it, and it constantly changed. He had a huge chest. He had a huge trunk of his chest, his stomach, and his his lap and his legs, but his feet, I couldn't see his feet because they were kind of melted into the crystals. Okay, and when he talked to me, he talked telepathically, and all the people's faces were speaking another language, and it sounded like Hebrew or maybe what Aramaic sounded like. I don't know, but they all look like biblical characters, like Jesus and how we think Moses would look, but that's what they look like. Okay, so even as they're talking, he's talking to me through telepathically, and he's telling me that they're returning to Earth. And I said, when are you returning to Earth? And he said, July 26, 2022, the same date the rabbi told you. I said, that's amazing. I said, where are you going to? Are you going to be in Egypt? And he said, no, we're going to land on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem on July 26, 2022. And I said, naturally, I'm asking a million questions, and I'm hoping and praying that somebody would come by and see this in the middle of the water. Okay, well, like I said, I'm out in the middle of nowhere in this desert area, and 400 or 500 yards off of the main street, but a lot of kids drive their ATVs and motorcycles. They do dirt bike riding out there, okay? And it's the summertime. All of a sudden I hear and I hear a motorcycle, a dirt bike. And I turn around, and there's a kid pulled up beside the bank of the river, and he must have been 13 or 14 years old. And I didn't mean to turn away from Abba or from the huge alien, but I was dying for someone to see this. And Abba actually said to me in my head, Gary, he can't see us. You're the only one who can see us. I said, come on, man, you're killing me. So, yeah, seriously. And this is just how I'm talking to you is how I talk to him. There was none of that, I felt this love and all this, and I fell on my arms, on my knees, and I was saying, oh, God, no. It's a bunch of aliens standing in front of me who, yes, I'll call them Abba. I'll give them props for doing all this. This is awesome. But I'm dying for some other human to be here to see this.
Well, yeah, sure. So you need validation on this.
Exactly. So, and like I said, there was no kneeling and praying and saying, even though, like I said, man, these. I will get into that in a minute. But what happens is I hear a voice in my head. It's Abba, and he says, Gary, he can't see us. So I turn to the kid. Not that I don't believe this huge alien, but I turn to the kid and I say, do you see anything out in that water? And he goes, no, I don't see anything. And he said, mister. He goes, you know how dirty that water is? I said, yeah, it's disgusting. And it is, Joe. It's filthy water. But the kid said, well, you shouldn't be in there that long. I said, don't worry, I'm doing some praying. He said, okay. So he takes off. I turn back to Abba, and I turn back to Uriel, because I didn't know the other name of the other angel or cherubim. And they both, I swear to God, Joe, rolled their eyes at me. Like, no, seriously, like what a jerk. And I said to him, I said, come on, guys. I said, you got to give me a break. I know everything, and it's killing me that it's so hard to get anybody on board with me. So Abba said, Gary, you have to concentrate. Now listen. So he starts showing me things, because I have a lot of questions in my head of how things started, how things began. Like I'm asking a million questions, and he says to me, just be quiet. I'm going to answer a lot of your questions, and I'm going to show you things. I said, fantastic. This is awesome. So in Israel, like I said, they're going to come back to Israel on the Temple Mount. And in Israel... Now,
you believe that this is going to happen on that date, obviously, because the way you're talking, it's like it's going to happen.
I'm going to be really depressed if it doesn't happen. But because someone said to me, well, Gary, what if it doesn't happen? I said, yeah, but I said, that won't be a problem, because I have a little under 5 years for everybody to see this NASA photo, and they will find everything in it. And everything that's in this NASA photo is everything that's in every Bible, in the Torah, in the Tanakh. Everything is in here. And when I say everything, Joe, I'm talking about the Garden of Eden. I'm talking about heaven. I'm talking about Jesus. I'm talking about everything you've ever been told about, any movie you've ever seen about Noah and everything else. It's in this photo. And it's all written in Hebrew. And there are actually millions of people in this photo that all have names, and it's all written in Hebrew. So, all your listeners and you have to do is do what I'm telling you. Just study it for a little while in a dark room, tilt it back and forth, you will see it. And if you can't see it, come on down to Florence, and I'll show it to you.
Well, I know what I'm going to be doing at 3 o'clock this morning. I can tell you that right now.
You will see it, but also use the photos and my drawings that I had that are on Gary Parker Midnight in the Desert.
Now, before we get to what Abba said to you or whatever, I want everybody to know that, you can also go to lightingthevoid.com, and if you go to the show reel and you click on Gary Parker's article, when you click on the thumbs will blow up so you can see the full pictures. But all of his pictures are on Midnight in the Desert, Gary Parker. All right, go ahead, Gary. I just was letting everybody know that.
No, that's cool, man. Thank you. If you know anything about Jerusalem and about the West Wall and the Temple Mount and all those things that go back thousands and thousands of years, what happens is the Jews believe that they're supposed to build the third temple. And by third temple, what I'm talking about is the first temple. There was a guy named David who knocked out Goliath. He killed Goliath, and David had a son named Solomon, and his son supposedly built the first temple, which was where they housed the Ark of the Covenant, which carried around the Ten Commandments and a couple other things. And that's how they communicated with God. And it was called the Holy of Holies, which is the area of the temple where they kept the Ark of the Covenant and they communicated with God. Okay? But then a few hundred years later, the Babylonians came in and knocked the temple down. And they sent all the Jews into exile. And so then a few hundred years later, 300-400 years later, the
Romans got hold of it too. Yeah.
Well, no, what happened was rebuilt. They rebuilt the second temple. And then 70 years after Christ was crucified, the Romans knocked it down. So the whole time you see the Jewish people davening, which means rocking back and forth in front of the west wall of the Temple Mount, they're praying for two things. Number one, for the Messiah to show up, and number two, for the third temple to be rebuilt so God can come back. Well, that's the story of the temple, what that means. So they're all praying and hoping that God comes back after they build the third temple. Well, Abba showed me that they are not going to have to build the third temple. He is actually going to come down out of the sky in the third temple. Now, so you might think to yourself, what, like a spaceship, something like that? Well, yes, but it's not going to look like a spaceship. I don't know if you ever saw this great movie, and because I'm a screenwriter, I always go back to movies. There was a movie with Keanu Reeves, and it was called The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh, yeah, that's a great movie.
Did you ever see it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, in the movie, Keanu Reeves comes down out of the sky as an alien, but he's in a globe that keeps spinning, and it almost looks like it's spinning. It looks multi-dimensional, and it's huge, and it lands in Central Park. Well, that thing that you see on that movie with Keanu Reeves, The Day the Earth Stood Still, is going to land on the Temple Mount. Now, when I showed the rabbis this thing, they said, Gary, this is just too impossible. But I reminded them that the Jews and rabbis, whenever they try to interpret the Torah, their Bible, they always use two guys. The first guy is a guy named Rambam. He's called the Rambam. The second guy is a guy named Rashi, R-A-S-H-I. Well, the Rambam has always said that the temple is going to be built by man, that they didn't believe in any of the supernatural stuff. But Rashi, the second major guy, he said, and they were around in the 1500s, the 1500s back in medieval times. And he said, no. He said, God is going to come down out of the sky in the third temple, and it's going to terrify everybody. And he's right. He's the guy. That's what Abba told me. He said, Rashi was right. The other guy was wrong. We're going to come down, he, and this whole thing. And like I said, all this is in the photo. So, but when I showed it to the rabbis, they said, Gary, this is what you're showing us is impossible. And how did you get to find this? Now,
why do they think it's impossible, though?
Well, for a couple of reasons. Because I'm not Jewish, and because there's
that's right.
There you go. But here's the deal. Now, you might say, well, Gary, he said, what happens is you might say, well, Gary, do you have any connection at all with this? Why is this happening to you? And I waited to this point to tell you this, Joe. I did have one thing that happened to me before I was born. And before I was born, after I was born, my mother, when I was 4 or 5 years old, has reminded me of this story every every one of my birthdays. My mom, she's now 85, and she's great and all that kind of. She's doing great. But every birthday, even my past one, she said, Gary, I got to remind you of this, and this is what happened 10 minutes before you were born. 10 minutes before I was born, Joe, my mom said she blacked out and she ended up in a dark room, and she said it was pitch black, and she was on the floor, just sitting on the floor in this dark room, and from a tunnel, she goes, it sounded like a man's voice from a tunnel, and this voice said to her, "Where did you come from? Where did you really come from?" Well, when I got, and it said it to her 3 times, both sentences 3 times, and she goes, "I was terrified." Well, when I had that dream, and it said, and that man's voice said to me, "Say these words in Hebrew, Father, Father, Father."
Oh, yeah, you did ask that.
Where did you come from? Where did you really come from? I said, "Oh my God, there's my connection," because I didn't know how I was connected until that voice said that to me. I said, "Holy cow." And it bothered my mother so bad for years and years. But every one of my birthdays, she goes, "Gary, there's something about these words. Where did you come from? Where did you really come from? It means something, and you have to remember it." And I said, I'll remember it. So when that happened, I freaked. I said, "Oh my gosh!" So Joe, even when Abba and the 2 cherubim showed up, I was never afraid, because I had been working on this photo for a year and a couple months, and I was expecting something big like that to happen, because a lot of people have said to me, "Well, weren't you terrified?" No, it was like it wasn't a negative vibe at all. It wasn't a scary vibe. It was like, this is supposed to happen, and I'm supposed to be the messenger boy.
Yeah, and I want to say something real quick, too, because you're going to get here's what's going to happen. You're going to get a lot of people saying, well, and, people are kind of saying in the chat room, they're asking if you were on any hallucinogens or anything like that.
No, that's fine.
All the prophets that have ever had any visions ever weren't special people. Let's just put it that way. And I spoke to Lon Malo Duquette about this. In fact, some of them were, and some of them were buttholes, actually. But you're not. But they were just.
I am. I'm totally am.
They were
and
just
I'm not that
people.
Smart either. I'm really not.
They were just people, and they were here to give a message. And so I can tell you're super excited about this, and you just know there's going to be a lot of people that's just going to be like, "Yeah, whatever, dude." No, I hear you.
Here's the one thing too. Everybody who knows me, and there's a handful. This is going to sound kind of weird. I've never had a drink. I've never smoked, and I've never done any drugs, and I'm not religious. So yes, I can say that, and you might not believe it, but eventually it's all going to come out anyway. Once all this comes together and people start freaking out. But yeah, I've never been high.
Incredible.
I know.
Man, incredible. That's harder for me to believe than the story you're telling me.
I know. It's unbelievable. I got to tell you, though, in 1978, I'm going to say, at college, a buddy of mine, whose name was Dave Butler from Philadelphia, he said, "Gary, I'll give you $5 to drink a beer." Well, back then, $5 was a lot of money. I had 1 beer in 1978. That was it.
Wow. Okay.
I know, it's insane, but for some reason, well, you don't know me, but on both sides of my family, everybody was drunk. They were total drunks, and they all died of bad liver disease. And when I was 11 years old, I looked at my older brother and I said, "I'm never drinking because I don't want to end up dead."
I totally am with you, man. That's why I don't drink much at all, because it killed my mother. And people were like, "You don't drink?" I'm like, "No."
I am telling you, every holiday, I can never remember a holiday without there being a fight or because people were drinking. It was horrible. It was horrible. Even though, I love my family and we were close, but I'm telling you, they were drunks. And I said, "I'm not going to drink." So I never did.
Wow. I think,
I know.
I don't know if you hear that, but do you hear that like raising static on the phone? Like it raises up? I can hear it. And I'm telling you guys this. The only reason why I'm telling you guys this is because my job, I work on the phone. And when people are listening in on the conversation because they have to, that's their job. That's that same sound I'm hearing right now.
Right.
No, I don't know. Maybe somebody's listening. Who knows?
Well, that's funny. But tell or any of your listeners emailing in. Like I said, it's easy to be skeptical without looking at the photo, without doing a little research. So I actually was on a show where people would call in, and I would say, "You can't really ask me a question until you study that photo a little bit, because once you see it and you see more and more, you're going to say, uh-oh, Gary's onto something. He's not lying. He's not high. All I have to do is put a little time into it. Like I said, it's so easy just to sit there and go, oh, this guy's nuts. Well, I may be nuts, but it's on photo. So please take your time, look at it, and email me. Get in touch with me, and if you can make it out to Florence, I'll show you everything firsthand, and you'll freak out.
Now, are you going to make a blog or a memoir or something somewhere where you have the whole report of this, or are you just going around and just trying to get the message out right now?
What happens is, first of all, I had to put everything on the back burner for the restoration and all that kind of stuff. And you got to remember, I didn't know those billionaires. I just sent them an email. So, and they've emailed me since that saying, Gary, has anything happened with the restoration? Well, no, I became obsessed with this. So for the past over 2 years, I've done nothing but this. And it's naturally the prophet's running out of money. So you know what I'm saying? So,
right.
So what, there you go. So some people say, well, why don't you shoot a video and do it and show everybody on the video, which I would, but it's really expensive to do the effects that are needed to have the picture for it to come out. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Yeah. Plus, if I tamper with the photo at all, people will say, "Oh, it's Photoshop. You photoshopped it." If they look at it themselves and they see it, or they meet with me, or I go to a convention and I talk to people and I show it to them, well, then it's more believable. If I made an expensive video and people say, "Oh, that's just photoshopped," and they wouldn't take the time out to study it. Does that make sense, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely, it does. So, you can still hear me? I didn't lose you, did I?
I'm perfect.
Okay, all right. So Abba, which is this. Now, do you think that Abba is what the Jews, in your opinion, in the Christian Judeo system, this alien figure, this is what they've called God the whole time?
Absolutely. Now, he absolutely is God. When I say God, now I've had debates with scholars, biblical scholars, Judaic scholars, and everything. They say to me, "Well, Gary, the Jews say we believe God is a spiritual being. He doesn't have arms and heads." And I said, "Absolutely." I said, "I'll give you that. Granted." I said, "But the person who created us has a head, has arms, has legs, and it wasn't just him, but he was the main guy, and that's his photo that I drew. That's the guy who put this whole deal together." Now, and I asked him when I was out at the river, I said, "Who created you and these other beings?" And he said, "We don't know," which is a really honest answer. So did he create us? Absolutely. Is he the spiritual God? I'm going to have to say no. But is he the person that created us? Is he the one that's going to show up on July 26, 2022? Absolutely. And all of this is in the photo.
Did you ask Abba or this being about the king of the underworld thing? Did you?
Yes, Lord of the underworld, God and the Lord of the underworld. Yes, what it is the way I was baptized Episcopalian, and which is kind of a branch of the Catholicism. And we always believed the devil was, the bad guy, and Jesus and God were the good guys, and all that kind of stuff. And the Jews never believed that. They believed that there was a guy called the Satan, and he actually works for God, and that's exactly true. So even though it says God and the Lord of the underworld, the person we call the devil works. Everybody works for that big alien that I drew. Everybody. And the other thing too is this, Joe. There are thousands of great pyramids on thousands of planets, and that being and all the beings that are in this photo, they manage and they go around to these planets all the time. And every 2,000 years, they go to maybe between 2,000 and 3,000 years, they visit each planet to see how they're doing. Once we've evolved enough into, technologically and spiritually, they're going to show up and they're going to help us in our evolution. This will be our next step in evolution.
So what about how you said that where the angel told you or Abba told you, I forget if it was the angel or Abba told you that everyone was going to be terrified. Is he purposely terrifying us, or do they know that that's what our reaction is going to be?
They know that's what our reaction is going to be, and that's why they're asked. Why I connected to, so the terror won't be as bad. People won't be like, you remember that War of the Worlds with H.G. What was it called? The great director radio show when he did War of the Worlds.
Orson Welles, yeah.
That's it. With Orson Welles, well, people will panic. Well, they're going to panic anyway. But with all the stuff that I'm doing, and everybody's going to eventually see this, they're not going to panic as much. But yes, it's to soften the panic, because people are going to freak out. In the I think in the Bible it actually says, there's going to be fire and brimstone and people are going to be killed. And that's not going to happen. But they just don't want anybody getting hurt. So that's why they're sending this message, and why they put it in a NASA photo. Now, also, you might say, and like I was saying, Joe, they manage thousands of planets and thousands of galaxies, and you might say, well, Gary, where are they from? Well, in the NASA photo, if you look at that NASA photo where I have it outlined in red, and you see his profile, the alien's profile, and it looks like he's looking across at Cairo. And I have outlined in red there, I have the Nile, it's in red, and I outlined a road that runs above the Nile. It's called Ring Road, and it almost looks like a cross. Can you see that?
Is this the one where you've got it in red, where you've outlined it in red?
I've outlined him in red, and I put a cross over there on the left-hand side. Can you see that?
Let me see. Yes.
Okay. What that is, that cross there is actually the constellation of Cygnus, which is called the Northern Cross or the Swan. If you tilt the computer back, you will notice when in a dark room, when you look at that cross, when you tilt it back and you keep tilting it, all the lights from Cairo will disappear, and you will see like maybe 6 or 7 or 10, maybe 12 lights. I plotted those out. I sent it because I thought it was a constellation. I took a picture of it. I sent it to astronomers, and they emailed me back and said, oh, yeah, that's a constellation of Cygnus. That's where they're from. And they're actually from the planet Sadr, S-A-D-R, which is right where the Nile intersects with the Ring Road, which is an 8-lane freeway that runs into Cairo. That is called Sadr. That's the planet they're from.
Sadr, how do you spell that?
S-A-D-R.
Okay.
Yes. And like I said, your listeners, if they tilt the screen, they'll notice that all the lights from Cairo on the left-hand side of the photo will disappear, and then they'll see constellation. It's outrageous, man. It's all in the NASA photo.
Now, you've got a picture in here of – now, this looks like what the what Josh Reeves and what the National Geographic did when they put that camera into that hole.
Yes.
What do you think that's about?
Well, I can tell you exactly what that's about. Hey, you know what? It's really funny. It's for as dumb as I am, I know everything. Right. Only the big questions. If you said to me, Gary, do you know algebra? No. Do I know calculus? Not a chance. Physics? Never. Do I know where we came from? Do I know who created us? Absolutely. So, and do I know how to show people? Without a doubt. Okay. What happens is, for your listeners, in the Great Pyramid, they were back in 1997. There was a guy who ran the antiquities department in Egypt. His name was Dr. Zahi Hawass. Well, the Great Pyramid is very, very hot inside, and some people, they could faint. It's so hot and humid and sticky, and it smells bad. So they were looking for a place to put some air conditioning ducts. And what Zahi Hawass and his people did was they hired a guy by the name of Rudolf Gattenbrinks, and he was a German engineer. And what they wanted him to do was to find out, in the Great Pyramid, there's the King's Chamber and the Queen's Chamber. The King's Chamber is really huge; it's up above, and the Queen's Chamber is down below. Well, in the King's Chamber, there's these shafts that go out to the outside. You know, they run all the way the length of the like a diagonally going out. And a lot of people have theories about them, but it was these shafts are on the north and south side of the what do I call it? The King's Chamber.
Now this Hawass guy, wasn't that stubborn guy that was saying Graham Hancock and then was wrong about everything? And
absolutely. Absolutely.
Doesn't really change his mind much about stuff.
No, but he's no longer. They fired him like 3 years ago, so he's not running with Elon. So what happens is they knew that those ductings, that those shafts went outside. But in the Queen's chamber, there's shafts there too. And when I say shafts, they are 8 inches by 8 inches. That's it. They're tiny. And they're cut right into the granite and limestone. But what happens is they realize that those shafts do not go outside. They stop. And for some reason, they want to find out why did they stop. So this guy, Rudolf Gattenbrinks, this German engineer, he designed a small little robot and put a picture on the end of it. And it had, it was kind of like on a half track, and they used it electronically, and they ran it up the southern shaft. And it went up 220 feet, and it ran into a limestone block. And on the limestone block was only it was 8 inches by 8 inches, but it was only 4 inches thick. And they know that because they sent up sonar afterwards. But here's the one thing, though, Joe, is when they sent the robot up there, and they took pictures of the block, on the block were 2 copper hoops. Well, people freaked out because copper hadn't been discovered by man for 1,500 years after the Great Pyramid was discovered. Copper should not have been there. So what happens is they're all freaking out, and they go, "This is unbelievable. Why is there copper hoops on this limestone block?" So what they decided was Zahi Hawass fired Gattenbrinks, and in 2002. With National Geographics, they get together and they decide that they're going to drill a hole into this 4-inch block in the shaft and to see what's on the other side, because it's only 4 inches thick because they sent sonar up. So what they did was they did this whole. Did you ever see it? The show on National Geographic?
Yeah.
It was called Into the Great Pyramid. Okay. Now, just know this. The reason I know this is because Abba showed me this. Okay, and all the stuff he showed me this, and he showed me how to prove it, that the Great Pyramid is a machine, and it runs, and it's never been shut off. Okay, and it created all the images in the sand. Okay, so what happens is National Geographic has a whole team inside the Great Pyramid. They send this small robot up with a drill and a camera. They drill a hole through it. Okay, then they put the camera, which is a fiber optic camera, and they put it inside the hole. When they put it inside, they notice 7 inches away from this block is another limestone block. It almost looks like
I remember, because they were like, "Oh, it's just another wall."
Okay,
right?
Well, it's not. It's not. I'm going to explain to you what it is and how you'll be able to see it. What happens is when they put the camera in there, the camera was taking pictures the whole time. And just know this: the host of the show, which was called Into the Great Pyramid, her name was Lauren Green, real pretty archaeologist and a good host. And she said, "Dr. Hawass, who was standing there, talk us through this. What are we seeing here?" And when the camera went through on the back block, it looked like cracks. It just was like little black marks. That's what it looked like. When you're looking at it flat on your TV screen, it looks like little black marks, like little cracks. And Zahi Hawass says, oh, those are just cracks. Well, when I was watching it, I thought, how the hell would he know what it is? No one has seen that for 6,000 years.
Well, that's because he's Zahi Hawass. He knows everything about Egypt.
Well, he doesn't, and he was lying. And not only was he lying, but he was covering up something. I'm going to explain to you. So what happens is me, because Abba had shown me this, what happens is if you download the National Geographic's Into the Great Pyramid, and you fast forward all the way to the end, and you see where that fiber optic camera goes into that hole, and you do it on your laptop in the dark. When you tilt the screen, the light from that camera was too bright, so you couldn't see these things. And plus, it was kind of far away because it looked small. If you tilt the camera, if you zoom in on that area and you tilt your screen back, what you will see is a binary code. Those things that he called that were cracks, they look like little spiders, but those spiders are releasing zeros, and they're actually creating a picture. And what happens is when I watched the video again, I saw Zahi Hawass go, those are just cracks. They're nothing. And then as I'm watching it again, you hear the lady say, "Are you sure those are just cracks?" Well, he gets angry, and he goes, "Those are just cracks." And what it is Zahi Hawass and a lot of Egypt archaeologists and all those people that work there, they know it's something. They just don't know how to communicate with it. And so they've known it for years and years and years, but they don't know how to communicate with it. And the only way to communicate with it is by standing in water and saying these words. And that's how you communicate with it, because everything about ancient Egypt is all about vibration and mankind. It's natural things, not sending out signals like SETI does. SETI, they send out these man-made signals. They're not going to hear anything. It has to be you have to be attached to the earth, and it has to be a person, a man or a woman, saying certain things at a certain pitch and a certain vibration. So anyway, what happens is, on the back to the Great Pyramid. So what happens is this fiber optic camera is taking pictures. And if you look on Gary Parker Midnight in the Desert, you will go down and you will see, and hopefully you have it in front of you there.
Yeah, it's on our website too.
Okay, you can see that there's the photo that was taken that was on the floor or on the bottom of the shaft. And you'll see in black there's a 1, a 20, and a 100. Can you see that?
Yeah. You
can see that. Well, on the 20, what happens is, because I was shown this now, on the number 20, below the number 20, and they had Zahi Hawass and their experts said that those markings that you're looking at are just ancient numbers telling you how far of a cubits they went up the Great Pyramid. You know what I mean? So the shaft was 220 feet long. That's what those markings represent. They do not represent that. If you look at the number 20 and on that photo, and then you scroll down and you see what I drew, which is under the number 20. Can you see it? Can you scroll down?
Yeah, I think I see what you're talking about there. Yeah.
Okay. What that is, under the number 20, are 3 people sitting on a crystal throne flying over ancient Egypt. And what it is the Great Pyramid created those pictures. The Great Pyramid is a machine, and it can detect technology. And the way to prove this is to send that fiber optic camera back up that shaft, put it through the hole, turn down the light on the camera, and on that back screen or that back white wall, it will create pictures showing everything since mankind had started, and how it will show everything. It will run like a TV show. Not that fast. It takes a little bit of time, but that's how. If we could ever do it, to get that camera back in there and just leave it running, and it will show pictures of mankind, how everything started, and how the pyramids were built and everything.
Gary, I'm wondering, have you ever read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth? The 12 Emerald Tablets of Thoth?
Heard of those things, but no.
It's interesting that a lot of stuff that you're talking about is in here, and you've never read it, right?
No,
so, just real quick, it says here in this tablet, says...
I'm sorry.
Well, it says, I buried my spaceship, waiting the time when man might be free. Over the spaceship erected a marker in the form of a lion, yet like unto a man. Well, that's the Sphinx, right? Yes. I think he says, there neath the images rests my spaceship, forced to be brought when need shall arise. He says, no, in the future, invaders will come out of the deep. Then those will awake, have wisdom, and you will conquer it. He says it's deep. I buried a spaceship deep in a passage in the pyramid I built, hidden in a wall. And it says that.
That's possible.
It says that in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth.
Anything's possible out there, I'm telling you. But, yeah, I mean, there could be anything there. And I don't know if you know this, but they found some of the the stones, or the huge boulders or stones that make up the Great Pyramid. Some of them are they use as an infrared screening for heat, and some of them are hotter than other ones. Did you see this?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay, yes, yeah. Some real famous company, I can't remember what their name was, but they went out there about a couple of years ago, and they took infrared pictures, and they noticed that certain parts of the Great Pyramid are really bright red, as opposed to the other ones that aren't that red. So what it is, it's the machine, and it works off of solar. And if they sent that photo, what's it called? The robot back up the shaft, and they put the fiber optic camera back on without the light being so bright, you will see that the Great Pyramid would send that binary code, and it will form pictures so we all can see exactly where we came from and how this all happened. Or you look at the NASA photo.
This is fascinating to me. I really, I mean, I really think that when you get time, if you just Google, Gary, if you just Google the Emerald Tablets of Thoth,
sure,
and check that out and see if any of that, because they're talking about the 10 different levels of heaven and stuff in here, and I heard you talking about that on
yes.
Dark or Beyond the Darkness.
Yes, what happens is actually there was a guy named Enoch or Enoch, however you want to pronounce it. And he was a guy who supposedly went up to heaven, made all these measurements, came back down, met God, met all the angels and everything. And he wrote a book called the Book of Enoch. And what happens is in it, he said that he visited 10 heavens. Well, Joe, it wasn't 10 heavens. It was 10 dimensions. These are fifth dimensional beings that live in multi-dimensions. And what happens is Enoch, when I found all this stuff in the NASA photo, I said, well, I better look at Enoch and see if his match up with this photo. Everything that Enoch said and where he said it was is exactly where it is on the NASA photo. Exactly. Everything.
I'll have to go back and read that again. That's interesting.
Well, it's really long and boring, but when he starts telling you where the angels took him and where they showed him, it's all in the NASA photo. Exactly. Including hell. There's hell's on the right-hand side. It's huge. It's 4 times bigger than heaven in the Garden of Eden. It's huge. So yes, that's all there. So back to your question. What was your question about?
Well, I was just trying to, on the show, we don't claim to be experts in anything, but we try to see parallels in things and put them together. And it's just fascinating to me that you're telling us the story of a vision, yet you haven't read any of these books. So naturally, a skeptic would think, well, he's read all this stuff. Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and he's putting all this together in his head, but this is, the more that you talk to me about it, the more I'm starting to think you really saw something, Gary.
Well, absolutely.
I really do.
Also, the people that I drew there, sitting on the crystal throne there, that are flying over Egypt. And that's ancient Egypt, actually. They are actually the 2 creator gods of Egypt. Those people are a guy named Ptah, P-T-A-H, Sekhmet, who was his wife, and their son named Nefertem. And his son is sitting on the tall guy's named Ptah, and they're both wearing mitre hats like Pope hats. And the kid is sitting on his right shoulder. And and the woman is actually reaching her right hand out up to us, and that is what's in the photo taken from the National Geographic's special. And if the people, like I said, your listeners, if they look at that photo and put my drawing beside it, and you do it in a dark room and you tilt the screen and you use a magnifying glass, you'll see it, and you'll see that I really don't think Zahi Hawass and these other guys knew that was there. And I know that they don't know how to contact these things. But hopefully one day I'll be out in Egypt and I'll be able to do it. So I'll stand in the Nile and do the whole 10 yards.
Have you tried to contact Graham Hancock or any of those guys, Randall Carlson maybe?
Well, I did email their website, but they get these things all the time. You know what I mean? So, but eventually, I'll end up meeting these guys. And in 5 years, in 2022, it's going to show up. So, I'm hoping I have a front row seat.
So where do we have to go to Egypt to see this front? Well, in Revelations, that God in Revelation says that the land will flatten out and every eye will see when God returns.
Yeah,
so that's a lot. Like I said, some of the stuff that you saw could be symbolic, but I don't know.
Yeah. It's all about that. But the whole thing about, I forget the name of that thing that happens in the Bible where people fly up to heaven and they meet Jesus there, and that ain't going to happen. It's going to be scary enough when this thing lands on the Temple Mount. That's going to be way scary enough, and the whole world's going to change. But so that whole, because I asked him, I said, hey, are the dead going to come back to life? And he goes, Gary, in the photo, the dead are back to life. And I go, well, what does that mean? He said, all those people with all those names that are written that you showed the rabbis and everything, that's raising the dead. Dead aren't going to come out of the grave. And I said, okay, all right, I got it. So in the photo where there's tens of millions of people with their names written, he said, that's raising the dead. That's how we're raising the dead. I said, okay, great. That's cool. Because, I think it would be terrifying to see somebody climb out of a coffin. So, and I actually said to him, I said, is there going to be a what's it called when Judgment Day? He goes, no, that's not going to happen. He told me, read the Torah. That's what's going to happen. The Jews are right. I said, all right, no problem. So go ahead. Any other questions?
Well, it's interesting it's hard for me to accept that any dogmatic religion is going to be right. I've always thought that they're all a little bit skewed, but
totally.
They all have parallels in them, if you want to say that. And but if you talk, and now I've talked to a priest, I've talked to just about every head of every religion, and I haven't had a rabbi on the show, but I have talked to them personally, and there is no convincing them that there's anything other than what they believe ever.
Right.
I mean, they won't even talk to you they won't consider anything.
Right. You're absolutely right. They're so stubborn, but anybody who really believes in their faith, well, they're right. And I said, but the problem is every one of them are wrong because they don't know. And knock on wood, I do know. But and I told the rabbis this. I said, guys, because the rabbis actually said to me, Gary, when God shows up, we're going to be dancing in the streets. And I said, Rabbi, when God shows up, I said, you're going to be terrified. And I said, even worse than that, your children are going to think it's the end of the world. I said, so you're going to be crapping your pants. I said, because you have no idea what's going to land on the Temple Mount. And they said, well, we're going to build the temple and God's going to show up. I said, in their eschatology or their prophecy, they say that there's two people who are going to be in front of this. Then one of them is like Enoch, and the other one is Elijah. Okay, have you ever heard of those guys? Elijah.
Elijah.
Okay,
yeah.
well,
Enoch too.
And Elijah was like the biggest prophet and the closest guy to God. Well, in this photo where there's God, I've noticed that, and remember when I looked at it and I saw it, and I saw a name written into there in Hebrew, I sent it to the Judaic scholar, and he said, "Well, that says Elijah," and I said, "Well, but when I tilted it, Elijah, turns into a woman," and I said, "Well, who could this woman be?" So when I met with Abba, and I said, is Elijah here? Like, who is Elijah? Because their whole thing is based on Elijah showing up, paving the way for God's return. So I said, well, tell me who Elijah is, because Elijah was supposed to be like to be a genius of the Torah, and he's supposed to know everything. Well, that's not me. I'm no Elijah. I'm no prophet. So I said to Abba, who is Elijah? And believe it or not, he showed me, and this just freaked me out. When he told me who it was a lady by the name of Dr. Christina Hayes, and I had no idea who that was. I came home and I Googled her, and she is the head of Yale's Judaic department. She's like the greatest scholar of the rabbinical law and Judaism and the Torah and the Tanakh. And I said, and I looked at her picture, and then I looked at the NASA photo, and it was her. I said, oh my God. Well, Joe, what am I going to do? Email a woman and tell her she's the reincarnation of Elijah? You know what I mean? It's like, what? So I did. I tried. I said, Dr. Hayes, my name's Gary Parker. I found something. Would you mind taking a look? And she pretty much told me to, drop dead. So
Gary, I hope that this, we got like 2 minutes, so we got to wrap it up
sorry,
here. Where do you
keep talking?
No, it's okay. Where do you go from here? What show are you going to be on next, or?
Well, I'm gonna be on a bunch of shows, and actually, I don't have the list here in front of me. I'm going to be on 8 more shows in the next week.
Okay.
And I'm going to constantly do this, and I'm hoping that your listeners will email me and let me prove it to them, and hopefully even some will get in a van and come out and meet with me, and then I'm hoping that eventually I will be able to go to conventions and show everybody and do that whole thing.
And give your email address out real quick again.
It's g.parker 36Gary at AOL.com. That's G with a period, PARKER 36Gary, GARY at AOL.com.
Right on, Gary. Thanks for coming out and sharing the story with us. This was awesome. I do know that Gary will be back on the network on Dave's show in December, so maybe he'll have some more information for us. Thanks again, Gary. That was really awesome.
Thanks, Joe, and thanks to everybody out there. Thank you so much for listening.
All right, guys, that's it. We'll see you guys next week. Joanne Clarkson, Space Boy, and Chris Zuger from Den of Lore. Remember, this show is produced and broadcasted by me, Joe Roop, and the Fringe FM, and cannot be broadcasted or simulcasted without written permission. Music was by Chronox, Kevin MacLeod, and Spaceboy at spaceboymusic.com. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for coming out.